All right, so you've got the selectionpractice.psd, which you should download and open up in Photoshop. And I'm going to go over a few tools. There's honestly really two tools these days that you're going to use because some major changes have happened. So you've got Object Selection Tool, which is a pretty new one, and you've got the Quick Selection Tool. Object Selection, first of all, you have to make sure that you are on the correct layer. So if I'm going to try to select the horse, I want to come to the horse. I'm going to go ahead and click, and I'll drag across, and it is pretty smart about being able to sense what I wanted to select. However, anytime you're dealing with something that has hair, there's usually you have to take it a step further. So I'm going to come to the Select and Mask button. And up here at the top, it usually starts with something like this, but I like to either do overlay and everything that's red is not selected, or sometimes, depending on the picture, I could do on white or on black. And it kind of shows me, but usually overlay is what I like to do, 50%. Now over here is called the Refine Edge Brush. Quick Selection Tool, Refine Edge Brush. So if you take the Refine Edge Brush, and remember the bracket keys on your keyboard will let you grow and shrink this, but you just make it, decent size, and then kind of just click and drag across, kind of dragging over the little loose hairs and dragging over little areas where the sky is peeking through. And that just kind of lets you refine things if there's any edges that maybe it shouldn't have gotten. If you don't want to overdo it, because then it might start taking away things that you don't want to get rid of. But that looks pretty good. Now there are a lot of settings over here that you can experiment with, but typically speaking, I don't need to use these. If you want to expand the output settings, you can click Decontaminate Colors and see how it's looking. Back and forth kind of between the two. I'm going to try it with the Decontaminate the Colors, which automatically makes it output to a new layer with mask, which is fine. And then I'll click OK. So what that does is the original layer is now hidden, the eye is turned off, and there's a mask, so everything that's black means it's hidden. So all the grass, the sky, all of that. But you can see that did a really good job of cleaning up the horse. So that is the object select. It works really well for other things as well. So if I come to the pineapple layer, let's layer 1, do the same thing, object select. It selects a lot of it. Maybe it misses a few things. So what I would do if it got more than I wanted is I would just come to the Quick Selection tool, and if you hold down Alt, it subtracts. So you see you've got Add to Selection, Subtract from Selection, and then just make a new selection. So if I hold down Alt, I can click and kind of decrease. But it's not perfect. So if I really wanted to kind of mess with it some more, I can try doing this Select and Mask, right? And take my Refine Edge. See, I can see it's not going to work as great because the background and the pineapple are a little too close. It will probably allow me to clean up the green part, so that's a fine place to check. Kind of clean up those edges, though it's not doing the best of jobs. Make sure to clean that up. And so if I say OK, it's still not very good. So what you can do is down here at the bottom of my tools, I'm going to expand so I can see them, is this one called the Mask, Edit and Quick Mask Mode. If you click on that, it turns everything red that is not selected. And if you take your brush tool, and typically I want the hardness to be 100%, make the size a lot smaller. but this is where the bracket keys on your keyboard right next to the P key are helpful. So if you paint with white, it will bring things back that maybe got kind of deselected that you didn't want. And then if you paint, and if you press X on the keyboard, it switches between these two. If you paint with black, it brings in the red that is deselecting it. So if there's something that you want to get rid of, you paint with black. If there's something you want to keep, you paint with white. And then whenever you feel like you're done, you just click here. And in order to hide it, I can go into my layers panel and click on the mask. A layer mask hides everything, but not permanently. I could still, if I have, now you can see there's a difference. You see that little frame that kind of moves between the two? If I go to the black one, the mask, I can do the same thing where if I paint with black, I get rid of things. If I switch it and paint with white, I bring things back. This is non-destructive editing. So those are the main ones that you would ever need to use. Oops, didn't mean to delete the whole thing. I just wanted to delete the layer, the mask. I'm going to go ahead and delete the layer mask. I right-clicked to do that. Now, the one other thing I want to talk about with using the quick selection tool is if you use object, so I'll set this back now for now, come to here, my object selection tool. Something like this, it's probably not going to work very well, like if I try to select one person and it doesn't like it because I'm not on the teens layer. So try that again. But if I try to select one person, it actually didn't do a bad job. That's not terrible. However, you can see I've got an arm that doesn't belong to her, got some feet. So once again, I'd want to go back to that quick selection tool, hold down Alt to get rid of. You can hold down Shift and that's going to set it to be add. So you'd kind of just go back and forth. Or if I do Control D, which is the shortcut for deselect, I could try using the quick select right from the start. And it might be faster that way. It really just kind of depends. The fact that, yeah, that those two, their arms, so it didn't really do a better job. So I probably would have better luck using object select, which being a brand new tool, I haven't used it a ton, but it is obviously awesome. Looks like it kind of remembered the fix I made before, so now I would just hold down Alt and kind of, whoops, not Alt. Object select is kind of a one-time use. Then I go back to the quick select and I can hold down Alt and kind of get rid of the extra stuff. And then there's always that select and mask, which brings you in and allows you to kind of refine things. So I could, that might be something I have to do. You can mess with things like smooth. We'll kind of smooth out the edges. Look for contrast. And the more you mess around with these things, you can output to a selection. So it'll just keep it as a selection, or I like to do layer mask. Because then when I say, oh no, yeah, I think Decontaminate Colors is good for this one, and I say okay. Everybody's hidden but her. And then I could come back and make sure I'm on the mask and paint with the paintbrush with white to bring things back, or press X and paint with black. Sometimes you got to get really close. And it's tricky when there's such a kind of a weird contrast. So, and of course, because other people were there, if I delete my layer mask, it's not like it's a great person to cut out, at least not with the legs, because she's covered. But that's the kind of the basics of the selection tool. So at least the main ones that you'll use. Something I'd like to just point out here, if I come back up to the pineapple, there is the magic wand tool, which is sometimes useful if you want to select things that are all just one solid color, like selecting something that's white. Because then once I've got that white background selected, I can go up to the select menu and choose inverse. And now if I mask the pineapple, you can see that that's done a nice job, and I could just use my mask paintbrush and paint with black to kind of get rid of the reflection. And if I zoom in, I can kind of get it better. So sometimes using these other tools that are kind of old school and have been around forever is still the better option. So